Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, police continue to investigate a hate-motivated crime at a Hindu temple. Plus, even though our community's been dealing with an opioid crisis for years, the health unit can't be sure what substances are mixed into local drug supply. The University of Windsor has just launched the Pronoun Project. We hear from one of the creators tonight. And a rare swan sighting in our city. We'll explain why it's such a treat to spot. Let's start with that ongoing investigation. Police continue to look into the hate-motivated graffiti spray painted on a Hindu temple in Windsor yesterday. As Dale Molnar reports, some of what was painted on the BAPS temple was directed against India's controversial prime minister.
Police in Windsor have released this surveillance video of two suspects allegedly spray painting what police say is anti-Hindu and anti-India graffiti on the BAPS temple early Wednesday morning. Police say some of it is directed toward Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Modi has come under fire in his country for his nationalistic policies. Volunteers have covered up the graffiti at the BAPS temple on Northway Avenue. A volunteer with the temple says this incident has been a challenge for them.
Really a shock, more so, to see something like this happening on one of the places of worship. Really, more so the place where we practice peace, harmony, equality. So we're just trying, as a community, really trying to look forward towards how do we proceed from here on.
A BAPS temple was also struck with similar vandalism in Etobicoke back in September. The High Commission of India in Ottawa condemned the vandalism and requested Canadian authorities take prompt action. Patel says his organization does not align itself with any political views. He won't speculate whether this latest incident of vandalism is connected with any tensions within the South Asian community.
Whatever is happening in foreign countries, it shouldn't really impact us here in Canada, right? Why? But whatever is happening in foreign countries or politics or in any other areas, it shouldn't be brought here.
Windsor police say they're investigating this as a hate-motivated crime.
Well, I personally have attended both the Hindu temples yesterday and today. We have two temples in City of Windsor, the one that was vandalized, and we have one in the East End on Enterprise Way. I have personally attended there, and I've spoken to the community leaders and community members to show our full support as the organization. The Hindu community has been assured this incident has been taken very seriously by Windsor Police Service, and it's being actively investigated by our morality unit.
Windsor police say they will be stepping up patrols at both this temple and at the Hindu Cultural Center in Windsor's East End. And also, Constable Gill says he will be attending services at the BAPS temple tomorrow as a sign of support. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
That story dealing with hate-motivated graffiti, but vandalism overall is on the rise in Windsor. And there's been a massive jump in costs to taxpayers. This is to repair things that are purposefully broken, like city washrooms, playgrounds, and fencing. 3 years ago, the city spent just over $100,000 on vandalism. The next year, the costs more than doubled. The city spent more than $250,000 in 2021. And they don't have the final bill for last year, but they say there was another major jump in vandalism. The forecasted bill is at $350,000. And Windsor's council has appointed a familiar face as the new boss of city employees. Joe Mancina will be Windsor's next chief administrative officer. That's the person who takes council's vision for the city and helps municipal staff put it into action. Mancina first started working for the city back in 1989. He was most recently the city's chief financial officer. And this is all happening after council voted to dismiss the last CAO in March. Jason Rayner lasted about a year on the job. The union believes he was dismissed because he was trying to make progressive changes. Even though Windsor has been dealing with an opioid crisis for years, users haven't been able to know exactly what's in their drug supply. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa dives into what it would mean to test the drugs and what's taking Windsor so long.
An animal tranquilizer called xylazine is being cut into opioids. The substance increases the risk of overdose and can cause bad side effects like hours-long blackouts and painful wounds that need amputation. Last month, Windsor health experts warned that xylazine could be circulating in the community, but they don't know that for sure because Windsor doesn't have drug testing technology, despite dealing with an increasing number of opioid overdoses and deaths.
Drug testing is basic harm reduction practice. On a city scale, in the middle of an opioid crisis, for us to not have this level of service really does, I'd say it's kind of backwards in a way.
The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit knows it needs more information to help it better respond to the crisis and inform users.
One of the main challenges related to addressing, what's become a crisis in our community related to opioid overdose and death is a lack of a good understanding of what's out there.
Drug testing breaks down what's in someone's drugs and just how toxic they are. Right now, there are fentanyl test strips that people can use. The health unit also puts out alerts on possible substances based on blood tests and coroner's reports from people who have overdosed. But it hopes to have a better, more proactive approach and possibly partner with Toronto's drug checking system.
So it's been hugely important for individuals who use drugs. A significant proportion of service users will disclose to us intent to do something differently after receiving their results. So maybe they'll choose to, use at the supervised consumption site, use with a friend rather than using alone, do a test dose first, use with naloxone handy, that type of thing.
The health unit says it applied for drug testing technology funding from the province and hopes to use it at SafePoint, its future consumption and treatment site. As for why it's taken so long,
we have a lot of work to do to build trust within the community of people who are using substances so that we can develop that relationship where people who use substances see service providers as a resource to them.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Ontario's housing minister is proposing new changes to get more homes built. They include allowing municipalities to expand boundaries where development can happen, something that has opposition parties worried about suburban sprawl. Lorenda Radikop has the details.
The PC government says this is about getting more homes built across the province. It needs to speed up construction. Projections from the budget estimate 80,000 new homes will be built this year, half of its target.
To ensure we reach our goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031.
This afternoon, the housing minister introduced new legislation. Among the proposed changes, 74 different provincial fees would be frozen for builders. Municipalities would have more flexibility to expand their housing boundaries. Farmers could build up to 3 new residences on their property. And the 29 fastest growing municipalities would have to provide a growth plan for transit corridors.
We know that more progress and more action is required for our housing goals, particularly in the face of economic uncertainty, inflation, and soaring interest rates.
As for the Greenbelt, no more changes, at least not so far.
The policies that we're presenting for comment today, all existing Greenbelt protections are maintained. There's no changes.
He made no promises beyond this document.
I was troubled by Minister Clark's refusal to say he won't open up the Greenbelt further.
The NDP's housing critic worries about municipalities being able to expand housing boundaries and that it'll mean sprawl.
It locks us into unsustainable transportation patterns, and it's incredibly expensive for municipalities to service.
She also wanted measures to help with soaring costs, such as expanded rent control. There's nothing for renters beyond what was announced yesterday that includes protections against rent evictions. One Toronto tenant likes that being able to add an air conditioner will now be clearly spelled out, but says that with these changes, it still feels impossible to ever buy.
I've been saving money for quite a while. Every year I put a little bit more in and think, I have a little bit more of a down payment, and then every year prices are higher. So I never quite get enough to get there.
The government says it'll now do 60 days of consultations on its plan to wrap up on June 5th. Lorenda Radikop, CBC News, Toronto.
Given all this talk about housing, let's take a look at how the real estate market is doing here in Windsor, Essex. Housing sales and prices are down compared to a year ago. The average selling price for a home in our region sits at about $524,000. That's down by about 23%. But still, it's a massive increase compared to pre-COVID numbers, and it's nearly double what the typical home would have sold for in 2018.
Rogers with a blast. Left field. That ball is gone! That a baby, way to celebrate opening day.
That's the first home run of 2023 at Comerica Park. It's opening day in Detroit for the Tigers, and for sure a bunch of fans from Windsor made that trek across the border for the big game. However, a disappointing day. The Red Sox won 6-3, but the next home game is Saturday at 4. Meanwhile, the Windsor Spitfires need a win tonight to keep their season alive. They're in Kitchener for Game 4 of their series with the Rangers. The Spits are the top seed in the Western Conference, but they've lost the first 3 games of the best-of-7 series. Puck drop is at 7, and if they win, they're back in Windsor for Game 5 on Saturday. And sticking with sports here, the Masters are on at Augusta in Georgia. That's where golfer Mike Weir became the first male Canadian to win a major 20 years ago.
And this is an enormous putt.
Oh, it feels good. This win is a win for me and my family, but it is a big win for Canada and Canadian golf.
A blast from the past there. Weir won the tournament in exciting fashion, winning the tournament on a sudden death playoff. The Sarnia-born golfer is playing in this year's tournament as well, hitting par on the first round. Worth noting, his big win in 2003 wasn't just big for Canadians, he was also the first left-handed golfer to win the Masters. Let's take a live look outside. They're a very different experience today compared to yesterday. Not quite as warm, but much drier and no risk of tornadoes, so that's good. Kelly Kennedy will be joining us later in the program. Stay with us. We're going to take some time now to talk about pronouns. He, she, they, them. It can get complicated for some people who aren't familiar with why people change their pronouns, but people are trying to help. Faye Sin is a media and film and political science student at U Windsor. They helped create the Pronoun Project at the university. Sin joined Nav Nanwa on Windsor Morning to talk about pronouns and why they're important.
First, let me ask, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And what that means is I choose, like, I'm non-binary. And what that means is that I choose to exist outside of the gender binary of just man and woman because I don't really feel like either of them fit me. And during the pandemic, how it really started is I started questioning my gender identity and, like, what is gender? It's like a social construct because without everybody else around me, like, socially enforcing my gender, I felt lost. I was like, okay, then who am I? I don't feel like a woman because I was assigned female at birth.
And for the longest time, many of us didn't think too much about pronouns, but that conversation has obviously changed in recent years. Why is it important for us to be thinking about them? And what impact does it have when we get someone's pronouns wrong?
So to answer the second part of your question, when you get somebody's pronouns wrong, usually my best practice is to correct quickly and then move on with the conversation. You don't want to make a big deal out of it because 9 times out of 10, the person that you've got the pronouns wrong already dealt with it in their that day, or it's just a common occurrence. I don't take it as a big offense. It's just it shows that you're learning and you're respecting the space that you share together.
Why is it important for us to be thinking about them?
Well, it's important. It's important because you want to respect everybody's identity, right? You want to respect the gender journey that everybody has gone through. So when you use somebody's correct pronouns, it's life-saving. It's affirming. It's just respect. It's really respectful of the person's journey that they've been through, like I said, and a lot of the times it's just a matter of respect.
This idea of
We've got that story on our website, and it also has a link to the pronoun guide to help people better understand gender identities. When we come back, Colette Kennedy will join us, and we'll talk about the long weekend. Stay with us. Police in Quebec say at least one person is dead after a fierce spring storm yesterday. A man in his 60s was crushed to death by a falling tree branch. More than 1 million customers are now without power, some facing the prospect of an Easter weekend in the dark. Many neighborhoods around Montreal woke up to scenes of destruction this morning, and then a massive cleanup effort got underway. CBC's Quebec Oduro has the story.
This car has seen better days. The tree fell on top of it during the storm. Not far away, Mark Lazar is trying to get around downed electrical lines.
I thought a bomb went off. I thought something, for a second I thought it was even an earthquake. The whole house shook. And then I came outside and saw what happened.
City crews are out in force, but there's a huge job ahead.
And then all of a sudden I saw white, like a flash of white, and I heard a huge boom. It was like an explosion. And I thought something bad happened.
And it sounded like one of those huge snow plows that shakes the whole house. And came outside and saw this, absolute Armageddon.
Genevieve Dumont is worried about the cost to repair the damage to her home.
Damage, we're not sure. The gate is probably a little bit dented because of it. We have branches on the roof right now. We haven't gone on the roof, so we don't know.
Electricians are doing what they can. Jill Hogan was home when the tree started to hit her roof and balcony. Today, she spent her time cleaning her front lawn.
Branch came down across the street, hit that car, another one on that car. And so, yeah, you start to wonder, how bad is it going to get?
Her neighbor stepped in to help.
It's fun. It's a way to meet your neighbors when there's stuff like this happening.
As hydro crews and city crews work to clean streets and fix the power lines, some local residents are just trying to salvage what's left of their cars. Quebec Oduro, CBC News, Montreal.
And with that, we bring in Colette Kennedy to take a look at local forecasts. Colette, so unfortunate to see what the community there is dealing with, but I know folks here want to know, what can we look forward to in the days ahead here for this long weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to get to that forecast, and it is a pretty fine one. So I'm going to get into that here. I'll just very quickly give you kind of an idea about this event that they had with the freezing rain in southern Quebec and eastern Ontario, all part of the same system that brought the tornado watch and the mild temperatures to southwestern Ontario. In fact, it extended all the way down to Texas. I mean, it was just a broad spring storm, and in fact, it's still in play a little bit further to the east of us. So essentially, you have the colder air at the surface, and you know, cold fronts and warm fronts. At the surface, you may have that defining line, but in the upper atmosphere, they tend to act a little bit differently. And that's because cold air is more dense. It's going to be hugging the ground. Warm air tends to be more buoyant. And so what happened is we had that warmer air move in. And in the upper atmosphere, you had warmer air over top of colder air at the surface, very close to the surface. So it fell as snow out of the clouds up here, but then it melted into rain in that warm layer. But then right at the ground, it was cold enough to freeze it on contact. If it was a deeper layer, then that freezes earlier, and those are ice pellets or sleet. But when it's a shallow layer of cold air at the surface, then it freezes on contact. And boy, oh boy, that went on and on and on for about 12 hours. So that's why the problem's there. Does this look like a problem? I don't think so. Your Easter forecast here for the Windsor area. Tomorrow, sunshine up to 10 degrees. Then it's -2. So we got a couple of cooler nights. So -2 to start Saturday, up to 11. There is some extra cloud cover that's going to move in, and I'll show you what's happening there. And then into Sunday, we begin the climb, seasonal and beyond. By the time we get to Monday, we're in the upper teens. The 5-day forecast takes us a little beyond that, and we'll show you where we're going. But here's a look at the current readings. So we do have those double digits still holding on. A little different. Chatham-Kent, you're at 9 degrees. That west to southwesterly breeze, those are the sustained winds. The gusts have been over 40 kilometers an hour. Now, they're going to shift that direction a little more towards the northwest for tomorrow, but they do back off. So still a little breezy tonight and early tomorrow, and then we'll see those easing up a bit. And that'll make things feel a little bit better. High pressure builds in. It's going to be clearing the skies, so mostly clear to sunny conditions. But it is as we go into not Friday, but Saturday. System passes to the north. And I'll tell you what, that's likely going to bring some flurries to cottage country. And I am putting some extra cloud cover then into the forecast as that passes. So that's for Saturday. We should stay dry, but still knowing that's there. Your temperatures tonight, and that's where you're starting if you're up early tomorrow morning, and then as we look ahead to where we're going. So we kind of already did this when we were looking at the Easter forecast in terms of what's happening the next couple of days. We begin that warm up Sunday, 14 degrees, and we start from freezing, but then Sunday night we're going to a low of just 4, so it's getting milder in the overnights as well. Monday up to 17, about a 30% chance for some showers Monday into Tuesday. Tuesday I've got us up to 21, and by about Wednesday, Katarina, if all things hold, this is several days out, we may well be with highs up into the mid-20s.
Oh my goodness. That makes me so happy looking at those numbers. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Here's something you don't see every day. A swan in Windsor, normally found in places as far away as Russia. This here is a typical swan that you'll see on the water. Always a fun spot, even if you're not an avid birder. But pay close attention to the color of its bill. That's how the avian experts were able to spot this rare swan. See how it's got all that yellow on it? A key giveaway for what birders are saying is a very rare type of bird for our area. It's called the hooper swan.
It's a hooper swan. It's a rare bird for this area. In fact, it's the first one I've had in Ontario in 30 years of birding.
But you got your bird book there, and it says that, yes, they do make it over this far.
Rarely, yeah. I bought it to basically confirm it was the right bird, and it's pretty clear. The bill is the main thing, a lot of yellow on the bill, and the length of it and the way it comes off the forehead. In 30 years of birding, it's the first one I've had here. Much more common in Europe, of course. But I'm really enjoying it, so I feel kind of lucky to be here.
So how did you find out about it?
From a local site. There's a really good bunch of guys. We have a local site for Windsor, Essex County and Peely, and anybody sees anything interesting, they post it, and that's why I'm here. It's by the grace of those guys that I get a lot of my birds.
Love the joy that it brings him, clearly. And we end with a bit of good news on the national job front. Canada's economy stayed strong last month after adding 35,000 jobs, 3 times more than what many economists expected. According to the latest data from Statistics Canada, the unemployment rate held steady at a low 5% in March, and nearly all of the new jobs were in the private sector. The service sector, including transportation and warehousing, saw a hiring surge. On the other side, natural resources and construction industries lost thousands of jobs. In March, the average hourly wage was just over $33, up more than 5% from last year. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And come back for the National tonight. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC News Explore. As for us, we are back on Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night, and if you're celebrating Easter, happy Easter.